Welcome to today's deep dive. I want you to imagine a top-tier insurance salesman, specifically back in the 1980s.
Okay, setting a scene.
Right. So he is just absolutely crushing it at Prudential, closing deals left and right. He's ranked like number 225 out of 5,000 agents nationwide.
Wow, so top of the food chain.
Exactly. From the outside, he is the absolute picture of corporate success. But behind closed doors, he's harboring this really severe hidden demon.
Ah, I see where this is going.
Yeah, he has a crack addiction. And he regularly just vanishes on these three-day benders, leaving his family in, well, total chaos. His wife knows, the kids know.
But his corporation.
They're completely blind to it, or maybe rather they just don't care, because the math checks out, right? He is producing value.
And that tension right there between the pristine math of corporate efficiency and the incredibly messy reality of human life, that is the foundation of what we are looking at today.
It really is. It sets up this fascinating lens through which to view, honestly, our entire modern existence.
Yeah, it does.
So I want you, the person listening to this right now, to think about your own work-life balance. Does it feel like a genuine equilibrium where you give a little and get a little?
Or does it feel like a constant, just exhausting compromise that's heavily weighted toward your employer?
Right. If you are feeling squeezed, you are definitely not alone. And today's source material offers a massive, and I'll say very controversial, explanation as to why.
We are pulling from a really wide-ranging, philosophically dense interview. This was featured on the Tucker Carlson YouTube channel.
Yeah, and the guest is Terry Schilling.
Right. Terry Schilling. He is a public policy advocate and notably a father of 8 children.
8 kids. So our mission today is to impartially unpack his central hypothesis. And it is a sweeping one.
Very sweeping.
He argues that modern corporate frameworks, historical ideologies, and even like the march of technology are all actively structured to discourage family formation.
Yeah, it's a huge claim.
We want to explore the mechanics behind that argument and what it really means for your understanding of modern society.
Okay, let's unpack this. To really understand the macro-level arguments the source is making here, like about global economics or technology, we actually need to stay with that micro-level story we just started with.
The Prudential salesman.
Exactly. Because that insurance salesman with the crack addiction in the 1980s, that was Terry Schilling's father.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And that corporate blindness to his dad's addiction, it fundamentally shaped Schilling's entire worldview.
I mean, the detail that really grabs you is how the corporate structure just seamlessly accommodated the destruction of a family.
Right, as long as the numbers were good.
Exactly. The father would literally come off a 3-day drug bender, walk straight into the Prudential office, close massive sales, and just maintain that top-tier ranking.
The corporate entity only saw the spreadsheet. They saw the revenue being generated. They were structurally incapable of seeing the human toll taking place in the background.
So when did it finally snap?
The breaking point arrived only when the human element simply couldn't take it anymore. His mother was pregnant with their 4th child, and she finally filed for divorce.
Man, that is the moment the facade cracked.
It was. But then, enter Grandma Pat.
Oh, I love this part.
Right. Schilling's grandmother steps into this whole chaotic situation, confronts the mother, discovers the hidden addiction, and then she turns her full attention to her son.
She delivers the ultimate ultimatum.
Exactly. She tells him he has to choose between the crack and the bachelor life or his family.
And he chose the family, right? He got clean.
He did. But the pivot that defines this entire interview is what happened next. He didn't return to the Prudential office.
Wait, he didn't?
No, he didn't go back to climbing that corporate ladder at all. He completely restructured the economic reality of his household.
Okay, so what did they do?
Well, he and his wife went on to have 6 more children, making 10 in total, and they opened a family business called St. Giuseppe's Heavenly Pizza.
Okay, we have to spend a second on this pizza because the way it's described in the interview is basically a spiritual experience.
It really sounds like it.
It is Quad City style. It uses this barley malt crust that gives the dough an incredible caramelized, slightly sweet crunch.
Sounds amazing.
And it features a spicy fennel sausage. But the mechanical secret to this pizza, and I'd never heard of this, is that the toppings go under the cheese.
Under the cheese.
Yeah, it creates this steamed effect for the meats and vegetables, rather than a fried effect from the open oven heat. And, oh, they cut it into strips, not triangles.
Okay, I'm officially hungry now. But beyond the culinary details, St. Giuseppe's really functions as the core metaphor for the source's entire philosophy here.
How so?
Well, that pizza shop represented total integration. The kids worked there, the wife worked there, the father led it. It wasn't about trying to achieve, work-life balance because there was no artificial dividing
It
line.
was just life.
Exactly. The family and the economic engine were the exact same thing.
I love that concept because the phrase work-life balance always feels a bit like a rigged seesaw to me.
That's a good way to put it.
Like, if you picture a seesaw, the corporation essentially owns the board,
Hmm.
right? And they control the fulcrum. They decide exactly where that pivot point sits to ensure they always have the mechanical advantage.
Spot on.
But I do want to push back on the source's premise here just a bit.
Go for it.
Is a modern corporation actually malicious toward families? Like, are they actively plotting their demise? Or is this simply the cold, blind math of capitalist efficiency? I mean, a corporation is just a machine optimized for profit.
Right, and the source material frames that cold math as inherently anti-human specifically because human beings, and families in particular, are deeply, wildly inefficient.
Oh, I see.
Think about the friction of a family. Kids get sick and need to be picked up from school at random times. Spouses need emotional support. Parents need sleep.
That's a lot of friction.
And that friction is exactly what modern corporate culture tries to smooth out. The machine wants friction-free cogs, and the family is basically the ultimate source of friction.
But that corporate blindness to human friction didn't just stay confined to, like, addiction in 1980s insurance offices. It really scaled up.
Oh, massively.
It became the default operating system for how we price modern American life, completely altering household economics. Let's look at the baseline numbers cited in the interview.
Yeah, the numbers are wild.
In the 1960s, roughly 50% of a single income went to basic living essentials: the mortgage, the car, the groceries. Today, that number sits at 80%.
And if we dig into the mechanics of that, it becomes incredibly paradoxical.
Right.
Because industrially and technologically, we are nearly 90% more efficient than we were in the 1960s.
Yeah.
We produce vastly more goods at a much faster rate with way better logistics.
Yet, the average American household is squeezed tighter than it has ever been.
Exactly. The source points to this dynamic as the creation of the two-income trap. The luxury of having one parent focus entirely on the home was systematically erased. Surviving now requires two incomes.
So what does this all mean? Let's try a thought experiment together to see how this mechanism actually plays out in your own neighborhood.
Okay, let's do it.
Let's say you and your partner both work full-time. You have two solid incomes. You want to buy a starter home in a neighborhood with a decent school district.
Makes sense.
But the couple bidding against you also has two full-time incomes. And the couple behind them has two incomes. What happens?
The price goes up.
Exactly. The price of that finite resource, the house in the good school district, simply inflates to absorb the maximum borrowing power of two incomes. So did you actually gain any wealth? Or did the banking and corporate system just manage to double its workforce while keeping your actual purchasing power completely stagnant?
What's fascinating here is how Schilling interprets that corporate response. He doesn't view the squeeze as just some accidental byproduct of inflation.
No.
No, he views the modern concept of the independent career as a beautifully packaged trap.
A trap.
Yeah, the argument is that workers are incentivized to trade a natural, biological dependence on a loving family for total economic dependence on a corporation. A corporation that, by its very nature, views them as entirely replaceable.
And the interview points to very specific modern corporate HR perks to back up this claim. We aren't just talking about casual Fridays anymore.
Not at all.
We are talking about post-Roe v. Wade abortion tourism, where massive companies offer to pay travel expenses for the procedure, or companies offering egg freezing as a premium healthcare benefit.
Right, and according to the source's worldview, these policies are not the feminist triumphs of bodily autonomy they are marketed to be.
How does he view them?
Schilling argues they are calculated, anti-inefficiency tactics. A mother on maternity leave is inefficient. A parent prioritizing a sick child is inefficient. Paying for egg freezing keeps a woman on the assembly line during her most productive years.
As impartial reporters of this deep dive, it is really crucial to note how this cultural friction is physically fracturing the market. The interview itself features sponsors that are explicitly trying to build parallel economic structures based on this exact ideology.
Right, alternative economies.
For example, you have Black Rifle Coffee pitching patriotism alongside their cold brew and zero-sugar energy drinks loaded with 200 milligrams of caffeine.
And alongside them, you have sponsors like Charity Mobile, It's a phone carrier that explicitly promises to donate 5% of its sub-$50 monthly plans to pro-life and pro-family charities.
So they're leaning right into it.
Exactly. These aren't just random ads. They represent a fracturing landscape where consumers are trying to vote with their dollars to escape the cold math of the standard corporate machine.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. The source does not just blame modern HR departments or the Industrial Revolution.
Oh no, he goes way back.
He traces this core anti-family sentiment all the way back through medieval history. He brings up the Albigensians.
The Albigensians. They were a 12th century heretical cult located primarily in southern France, and their core theology was built on a massive dichotomy.
Right, they believed that the spiritual soul was entirely pure, but the physical body and the material world were fundamentally corrupt.
So anything physical was bad.
Yes, therefore anything that tied you to the physical world was a severe sin. Eating rich, delicious food was a sin. But the ultimate sin was procreation.
Because of the physical body.
Having children was viewed as the wicked act of trapping a pure ethereal soul inside a corrupt, rotting physical body.
And the source draws a direct line from that ancient anti-physical theology to the modern environmental and population control movements.
Really? How so?
Specifically, he connects it to Paul Ehrlich's highly influential 1968 book, The Population Bomb.
Oh, I know that one.
Yeah, Ehrlich predicted catastrophic global starvation and societal collapse unless human population growth was drastically and immediately controlled.
Ehrlich wasn't just writing academic papers, though. He advocated for forced sterilization programs and successfully lobbied Hollywood television producers to only depict small families on screen to change cultural norms.
He really pushed for it.
And it's incredibly important to note that none of Ehrlich's apocalyptic starvation predictions came true. The Green Revolution in agriculture basically blew his math out of the water.
Completely.
But the underlying ideology, this idea that human beings are essentially a pollution, a problem that needs to be solved or managed, it persisted and embedded itself in our culture.
Which brings the source to Francis Bacon, who is widely considered the father of modern science. Bacon's philosophy was that humanity's ultimate goal was to conquer, master, and alter nature.
Okay, I see the connection building.
The source argues that this unbroken chain from the Albigensians to Ehrlich II to Bacon culminates today in artificial intelligence.
Okay, wait, I have to stop and challenge this.
Yeah.
This is a massive, massive leap. Are we really saying that a 23-year-old tech bro building a data server farm in Silicon Valley in 2026 is the direct ideological heir to a 12th century French monk who thought eating a good piece of cheese was a sin against God? That sounds like a conspiracy board covered in red yarn.
It absolutely sounds like a huge stretch on the surface. But if you look at the mechanism the source is describing, the synthesis is actually quite compelling.
Okay, walk me through it.
What do the 12th century monk, the 1960s population engineer, and the modern AI developer all have in common? They share a fundamental rejection of the natural human condition.
Meaning they all want to escape the messy biological reality of physical limitations, suffering, and the friction of human relationships.
Precisely. They all seek to transcend the flawed physical state. The Albigensians wanted to escape the body through theology. Ehrlich wanted to engineer away the population through policy. And artificial intelligence, according to this interview, is the ultimate manifestation of transcending human limits. It is an attempt to replace flawed, emotional, and unpredictable human judgment with a pristine, perfectly engineered machine overlord.
The ultimate eradication of human inefficiency.
Exactly.
Okay, well, when you explain the mechanism like that, the philosophical through line actually makes a lot of sense. But philosophy can kind of float in the clouds. Let's bring this down to the pavement. Let's look at the physical evidence, because the interview points to observable reality.
This is where it hits close to home.
I want you, our listener, to mentally walk through your own neighborhood right now. Look at the parks. Are there more dog parks being built or kid parks?
The physical footprint of our cities is perhaps the most striking evidence presented in the deep dive, because public infrastructure always reflects a society's deepest priorities.
Schilling notes that historically, a public park was centered around children. It had swing sets, merry-go-rounds, jungle gyms. Today, especially in major affluent urban centers, those spaces are increasingly being fenced off and converted into dog runs.
And to see the logical endpoint of this trajectory, he points to Hong Kong.
What's happening in Hong Kong?
Hong Kong is incredibly prosperous, deeply integrated into global commerce, yet their birth rate has experienced a total collapse. It's sitting at just 1.09 children per woman.
Oh, wow. That is far below the replacement level of 2.1.
Exactly. And what does a society with a birth rate of 1.09 build in its public squares? They aren't building playgrounds.
What are they building?
The interview notes that Hong Kong is increasingly installing low-impact exercise machines, things like hip twisters and gentle mobility gliders, specifically designed for senior citizens.
So the literal concrete and steel of the society is adapting to a world where children simply do not exist.
Yeah. And that physical transformation brings us to one of the most raw and contentious nerves hit during the interview: generational blame.
Oh,
The source levels a pretty devastating critique at the baby bear generation, using a very specific biblical comparison. Schilling compares the boomer generation to Absalom.
for those who might not know the reference, Absalom was King David's third son. He was famously handsome, deeply undisciplined, terribly entitled, and ultimately incited a massive rebellion against his own father.
Right. And the underlying argument here is that the generation that inherited the greatest economic and structural boom in human history, the post-World War II era, squandered that inheritance through profound selfishness.
He points directly to the economic mechanics strangling young people today. You have a massive cohort of boomers sitting on multiple homes, hoarding vast amounts of generated wealth, and consistently voting to pass property tax freezes to protect their own assets.
All while pulling up the ladder behind them.
Exactly. Meanwhile, a young couple in their late 20s trying to start a family is looking at a basic, entry-level townhome with a price tag of $750,000 at a 7% interest rate.
It's brutal. The environment makes family formation not just difficult, but economically terrifying.
And the source pairs that structural economic critique with a really sharp moral critique. He highlights an incredible societal irony regarding how we view contracts and commitments in the modern age.
Oh, this part of the conversation was fascinating. They bring up the concept of credit card debt.
Yeah, if you max out a credit card and simply refuse to pay a massive banking corporation, a company that might be charging you a predatory 20% interest rate society views your actions as deeply irresponsible.
Right, you are categorized as almost immoral. Your credit score is destroyed, you are locked out of the housing market, you are a bad citizen.
But what happens if you stiff a spouse? What happens if you break up a family via no-fault divorce?
That action is viewed entirely differently. It is socially acceptable. In many cultural corners, it is even celebrated as a brave personal journey of finding your truth.
It's a huge contrast.
The financial contract with a faceless predatory corporation is treated by society as sacred and binding, while the foundational biological contract of the family is treated as totally disposable.
And when you stack all of these mechanisms on top of each other, the two-income bidding wars, the shifting physical infrastructure, the disposable view of marriage, the result is a highly radicalized younger generation.
It really is.
The interview cites a startling statistic that 43% of Gen Z individuals say they do not want to have children. Schilling refers to them as the products of the divorce generation.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the source's ultimate warning comes down to the concept of demographics as destiny. He uses the metaphor of ballast in a ship to explain the sociology of fatherhood.
To understand that metaphor, we have to look at the physics of a ship. A ship without a heavy weight sitting at the very bottom of its hull is incredibly unstable.
Right, it'll just tip right over.
It will completely capsize at the first rogue wave or strong gust of wind. That heavy weight is the ballast.
And the source argues that when a man becomes a father, he becomes that ballast for society. He starts thinking in decades rather than days. He has a tangible stake in the future.
He acts as a steadying weight against extreme behavior because he has dependence.
It makes perfect sense. You are far less likely to be out in the streets throwing bricks through windows or indulging in nihilistic, destructive despair if you have 3 kids relying on you to keep the lights on and put food on the table.
And the warning is that when you remove that ballast, when you engineer a society devoid of the long-term grounding that fatherhood and family provide, the ship of society naturally tips over.
It capsizes into extreme political polarization, rampant social despair, and radicalization, simply because there is no heavy weight holding it steady.
It is a remarkably heavy diagnosis of exactly where we are right now. So, let's summarize the worldview we've been unpacking from Terry Schilling's interview. He essentially believes that our modern obsession with corporate efficiency and our endless pursuit of technological mastery have successfully stripped away the natural why of human existence.
The why being the family, the legacy, the basic desire to leave descendants.
Exactly. And by stripping away that why, we've been left with nothing but the what, The work, the consumption, the endless exhausting cycle of producing quarterly value
Yeah.
for a company that will, frankly, post your job opening the day after your funeral.
But despite the heavy diagnosis, Schilling is ultimately optimistic.
Really? How so?
He insists that nature always wins. You can build all the AI data centers you want, you can offer all the egg freezing perks you want, but you cannot indefinitely fight the basic biological human desire to sit at the head of a table surrounded by your descendants.
It's an argument that the natural order will eventually forcefully reassert itself, primarily because the alternative, a society that refuses to replace itself, quite literally dies out. The math of a 1.09 birth rate eventually hits zero,
Exactly.
which leaves us with one final, incredibly provocative thought for you to mull over as you go about your day. We talked about artificial intelligence being the ultimate tool to replace messy human effort. Let's say the tech optimists are entirely right. Let's say the AI revolution actually succeeds in its ultimate goal, which is eliminating the need for human beings to do corporate work at all.
A total post-work society.
Right. If that happens, does it lead to the bleak trust fund style despair mentioned in the interview, where an entire generation loses its mind because they have no purpose, no struggle, and no ballast?
That's a scary thought.
Or could the total collapse of the corporate work structure be the very thing that finally frees humanity? If a machine overlord permanently unplugs the two-income treadmill, are we finally free to focus entirely on the why? Does the end of corporate work force us to rebuild the family?
It's the ultimate paradox. Does eliminating our daily labor destroy our sense of duty to each other, or does it finally give us our lives back?
It makes you wonder, the next time you find yourself trying to balance that rigged seesaw between your demanding employer and your actual life, take a hard look at who exactly is controlling the fulcrum. And ask yourself, what happens to you when that seesaw just breaks entirely?